Сегодня пополудни в 12 часов полностью был взят Бахмут.
Щоб наші люди попали в полон до ворога. Сьогодні вони виконують дуже важливе завдання. Сьогодні вони знаходяться в Бахмуті. В яких точках ділитися не буду, але це говорить про те, що Бахмут не охоплений на сьогодні Російською Федерацією. Ніяких двох або трьох тлумачень цьому не може бути.
Two contradictory statements. Two claims. And two leaders at war. What is the truth of Bakhmut? For the last few months, Ukrainian troops in the eastern city of Bakhmut have been on the defensive. Crouching in basements and edging backwards in the face of waves of artillery assaults from Russia.
О Бахмуте, а после этого, может, картой на
On the 20th of May 2023, the Telegram account of the chief of the Russian mercenary group Wagner showed members of the group, backed by Putin, waving a Russian national flag and Wagner Group's flag on the rooftop of a damaged building in Bakhmut. And with that, the Wagner chief claimed that his team of fighters, along with Russian troops, have completely seized the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. A claim that was met with counterclaims by Ukraine. At the Group of Seven summit in Japan, President Volodymyr Zelensky not only refuted statements by Russia's mercenary group, saying that Russia did not occupy Bakhmut, he also went on to compare the total destruction of Bakhmut to the 1945 devastation of Hiroshima.
Ми бачимо, де ми знаходимося. Сьогодні це сучасне місто, яке виглядає живим, важливо, з повагою до людей, до цінностей. І ось фотографії трагедії в Хіросімі, і ось що ми бачимо. І я вважаю, що те саме буде і в Бахмуті, і в інших наших містечках, і селах тощо. Обов'язково так буде. На жаль, сьогодні це трагедія, але в майбутньому буде відбудова.
So what exactly is happening on the battlefield in Bakhmut? Has the city really fallen? These were the scenes from the battleground, just days before the Wagner Group declared its victory over Bakhmut. Ukrainian soldiers fired up to 100 mortar rounds at Russian positions. In return, they faced heavy fire from Russian forces, who were better equipped with manpower and stocks of ammunition.
The fire was intensive this week. Our forces pushed forward a little and stopped near the canal. It is hard to push Russians out of there, but it's fine, we are working. It's good that Russians can't find us. We fire at them and they return fire on some other greeneries.
Moscow regards its assault on Bakhmut as an important part of the campaign. to capture the rest of the industrial Donbas region of eastern Ukraine. Why Bakhmut matters for both Russia and Ukraine, and how it became central to the Russia-Ukraine war. We explain. Bakhmut is a small city located in eastern Ukraine's salt mining region and is known for its salt and gypsum mines. In May 2022, it stepped into troubled times when Russia attacked it, but the battle intensified in August. And what happened over the past 9 months is something you can see in these images. After Russia took over the two cities of Syeverodonetsk and Lysychansk, Bakhmut became their next target. Capturing it would allow them to secure the entire Donbas region, an industrial hub with massive coal reserves. At present, owing to months of fighting, Bakhmut has been reduced to rubble. More than 70,000 people used to inhabit the city until constant shelling forced them to flee.
I won't get over it if something happens to my nearest and dearest. The crucial thing is that my child stays safe. I'll do my best.
There is no future here for the children. There is still shooting around here.
Bakhmut has been on the stage for the longest and bloodiest battle so far in the war. The reasons are both symbolic and strategic. Bakhmut is not just a part of Ukraine's territory, it is also seen as a source of moral strength by the country's military forces. Bakhmut holds, a popular slogan on social media, celebrated the city's spirit in the face of war. And then there were some strategic reasons too. Defending the city helped Ukraine in damage control. By keeping the Russian forces engaged here, it prevented them from getting deployed elsewhere on the front line. Ukraine's strategy was to exhaust Russian forces as much as they could.
When I was in Bakhmut yesterday, our heroes gave me the flag, the battle flag, the flag of those who defend Ukraine, Europe, and the world at the cost of their lives. They asked me to bring this flag to you, to the US Congress, to members of the House of Representatives and senators whose decisions can save millions of people.
These were Zelensky's words when he visited the US in December last year, pleading for US's support in the war. Losing Bakhmut at this crucial juncture might spark concerns among Ukraine's allies and possibly affect any external help it seeks to gain. In March this year, Zelensky had said that if Bakhmut fell, it could enable Russia to gather international support for a deal that might force Ukraine to make unfair compromises. Now, with Bakhmut under Russia's control, as per the declaration by the Wagner Group, what lies ahead for Ukraine? Will Zelensky's worst fears come true?
The Russians, just like the Ukrainians, are observing strict secrecy about what their next moves will be. There is a lot of speculation about that, but I think I'll venture one safe guess. It is reasonable to expect that they will move directly westward, that Kramatorsk and Slavyansk will be their next objectives. The capture of Slavyansk in the days or months ahead will be an iconic victory for the Russians, and it's not just a symbolic victory, but a real victory on the ground, because it means they will clean up the whole of the Donbas, which was one of the missions that Mr. Putin set out back in February 2022.
Russia has big territorial ambitions in Ukraine, especially the Donbas region. And in order to take control of this region, Russia needed to capture Bakhmut. A victory in Bakhmut would also open up a path to Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, key cities in Ukraine. Kramatorsk is the administrative center of Donetsk, also one of eastern Ukraine's most important industrial centers.
For Ukraine, it's been a symbol of resistance to Russian aggression. For the Wagner Group in particular, which is actually doing the fighting, it's been a symbol of its own potency and of its contribution to the Russian effort. More strategic importance, of course, it enabled the Russians to penetrate Ukraine even further. And that, of course, was important to them. And that was another reason why the Ukrainians resisted so strongly. Obviously, another city falling to the Russians. Remember, the Russians haven't taken a city in a long, long time now. We're talking about a war that's gone on for nearly a year and a half. And it was the Ukrainians that were taking cities back, not the Russians.
But the big question is, why did Russia involve Wagner Group, a Russian private mercenary outfit that has been waging a ferocious fight for Bakhmut since last year? Russia, for years, trusted Wagner to do its bidding around the world in places where it has a limited supply of troops. In January this year, the UK Ministry of Defence revealed Wagner almost certainly now commands 50,000 fighters in Ukraine and has become a key component of the Ukraine campaign. This number was apparently 5,000 before the invasion. It says the organization started recruiting in large numbers last year because Russia had trouble finding people for the regular army.
The Wagner Group is a transnationally organized criminal group that is selling itself off as a private military corporation. It operates under the direct command and control of the Kremlin.
The Wagner Group is supposedly a private group. It's closely tied to the defense ministry. It does Russia's dirty work.
The first whispers of the Wagner Group emerged in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and seized territory in parts of Donetsk and Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. At the time, there were reports of so-called little green men, soldiers in uniform but without Russian insignia, who entered both regions. Since the war started, the Wagner Group has been heavily involved in Russian efforts to capture various parts of Ukraine. German intelligence says Wagner mercenaries may also have massacred civilians in Bucha in March 2022. Back in Bakhmut, the group supplied tens of thousands of men, from Russian prisons to Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. Their brutal tactics are believed to have resulted in high casualties on the battlefield. Wagner provides every possible help to Russia, from security training and political and military advice to intelligence collection, influence operations, and combat operations. But there are limits to what the Wagner Group is capable of without adequate warfare resources. On the 5th of May this year, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the chief of Wagner Group, who is viewed as being close to the Kremlin, threatened to pull out his soldiers from the city of Bakhmut, citing high casualties and ammunition shortages.
Нести без боеприпасов потери в Бахмуте, бесполезные и неоправданные, мои парни не будут. Поэтому с 10 мая 23 года мы выходим из населенного пункта Бахмут.
However, in recent days, the Wagner chief made another declaration and claimed to have captured Bakhmut fully. What's surfacing now are conflicting statements from the two sides on the status of Bakhmut, from dwindling ammunition to capturing Bakhmut within a span of 2 weeks is no mean feat. Has Wagner really captured Bakhmut?
Around the world, they essentially attacked frontally. And what they tried to do was simply overrun the Ukrainians. It didn't work. And they kept losing thousands upon thousands of people, but they kept trying and they kept doing the same thing over and over again, essentially to wear down Ukrainian resistance.
The ongoing war underlies the changing nature of modern-day warfare. Russia's tactics have changed the way it is fighting in Ukraine. A war strategy that Russia allegedly used is phosphorus bombs. Earlier in May, Ukraine accused Russia of attacking Bakhmut with phosphorus munitions. In a drone footage released by Ukraine's military, white phosphorus was seen raining down upon the city. Phosphorus bombs create fast-spreading fires that are difficult to extinguish. Even though white phosphorus weapons are not banned, using them in civilian areas is regarded as a war crime. And Russia has been accused of using the bomb previously too, during the siege of Mariupol at the beginning of the war. Understanding how Russia has changed its approach matters not just to Ukraine, but also to the members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Russia's electronic warfare capabilities, now deployed from airborne to platoon level, are evolving constantly. According to a report, Russian forces appear able to decipher Ukraine's encrypted communications system in real time. Russians are doing their best to demolish what is left of Bakhmut. A video that circulated online in the month of April depicted a Russian TOS-1A Solntsepek launcher lobbying powerful thermobaric rockets into the contested city. The Solntsepek can fire several dozen thermobaric rockets and is mounted on a different main battle tank chassis depending on the version. According to the US military, the TOS-1A is an upgraded version of the TOS-1 with an increased range as a result of longer rockets.
The achievement on the ground in Bakhmut was a result of two elements. The most important cover for the progress of the Wagner Group as it went from house to house was artillery cover, and that is the professional Russian army. They demolished high-rise buildings which were being used by the Ukrainians for snipers and for troop spotting to direct attacks on Russian troops in the city coming from outside, from Ukrainian forces outside. So without that cover and without demolishing block by block the reinforced outposts of the Ukrainian forces, work that was done by the regular Russian army, the Wagner Group never could have succeeded.
While Russians have been accused of wanton destruction, Ukrainians are painted as having shown restraint in the use of destructive means on the battlefield. Drones have been used extensively by both Russia and Ukraine. Recently, Ukrainian soldiers displayed the Ukrainian besieged Leleka, an unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV, used to fight Russian forces around Bakhmut. The Leleka, which is Ukrainian for stork, is capable of flying behind enemy lines to detect clusters of equipment and infantry, providing essential information for adjusting artillery fire. In a major boost for Kyiv, the US says it will allow its Western allies to supply Ukraine with advanced fighter jets, including US-made F-16s, and will train Kyiv's pilots to use the jets. Russia said countries would run enormous risks if they supplied F-16s to Ukraine, as per reports. The F-16 is widely used by a number of European and Middle Eastern nations, as well as the US, which still manufactures the aircraft. The UK, Netherlands, Belgium and Denmark also welcomed the US move. In another significant effort, Denmark has offered to host a peace summit to end the Ukraine war in July. However, it said that for such a meeting to take place, it would need engagement from India, China and Brazil. Will this peace proposal take off?
Everybody is waiting for a counteroffensive that Ukraine will take over territories, or at least partial parts of the territories that are currently occupied under the Russian forces. I think that this is just an example of many other battles that are waiting to come. It is, however, a turning point as it pertains to the amount of men that have been lost on both sides, particularly on the Russian side.
Top military leaders in Ukraine insist that the grinding 9-month battle for Bakhmut is still not over. Ukraine's deputy defense minister claims that Ukrainian troops are still controlling the southwestern outskirts of the city, but Russia has its own claim of capturing Bakhmut fully. That's the battleground for Bakhmut for all.